is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as UCLA men's volleyball. They just continue to win as they take down Washington State before. Is this the year UCLA gets the job done, and do they snap the whole back-to-back national championship streak in men's volleyball? Also, how about the Ohio State sweeping Ball State? A very impressive win for those Buckeyes. And also, how about UC Santa Barbara sweeping Pepperdine last Wednesday? A lot of madness happening in the NCAA men's volleyball realm. Speaking of madness, we had a lot of NCAA beach volleyball madness happening as well, as Hawaii knocked off number 1 UCLA. And everyone was beating each other up in that tournament. Also, we had some MLB and LLVP happening this past week as well. Hammy Volleyball, that's next. Remember, we'll get to volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio. Your direct feed for all that sports. And welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you're listening from. Either way, you've made it way in episode 339 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on X and on YouTube. Please do follow us on social media, on X, TikTok, and Instagram at iSports Radio. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. Once again, we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, if not 500 subscribers. With your help, we could definitely make it happen. So please do subscribe to us on YouTube. It would greatly appreciate it. And also, check out our website, iSportsRadio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our page dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, and so much more. For the last 11 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports stages around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. And actually, we are dedicated to all major sports insiders around the country, from different cities, different states, you name it. But we're dedicated to all different sports around the country. Also, make sure to check out our sponsors, Plant Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Vital Apparel. So without any further delay, let's get on into what our sponsors are all about. We'll see you in a little bit.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Teran Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows and also check out our sponsors and check out our website as well. Definitely check out everything IE Sports Radio related. The way you can follow Setpoint on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @set_point_IE. Also on TikTok, at @set_point_IE. I promise you all, after this show, for real this time, I will be updating all my interviews that I've done so far. I have been slacking on that quite a bit. And you can also follow me personally on X as well, at Teran Rodriguez 1. So you have that right there. Also follow me on Instagram, which is where most of my content has been going nowadays, at @set_point_IESR. That's where you can find me on Instagram. I've been sharing a lot of it and covering more things, like more volleyball events, not just on the collegiate level, but on the high school level, maybe a little on the pro level as well. So you have that right there. So without any further delay, let's get on into all of the volleyball action. So we had quite the week of volleyball on the NCAA men's volleyball side, as week 7 did not disappoint. And actually it was week 8. Hold on. Let me just switch this up. I thought I did this real quick. There we go. All right. Week 8 did not disappoint. It was actually a very fun week, and honestly, I think it was quite phenomenal. So obviously we want to go into the first matchup being Long Beach State UCLA, and that was kind of the marquee match of the week right there. So I think for that matchup, it was highly anticipated. I think it was a very fun match. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to attend. So sadly, that was it was a bummer not attending, but I have my reasons for it. But um it wound the first set obviously was all UCLA. I was seeing the match on obviously Big Ten Plus because that's the only place where you could see it at. And it was just a thumping by UCLA. UCLA just came to play, and they took the first set 25-15. I was like, oh gosh, this might be a shorter night than normal because, well, UCLA just looked like they were the number one team for a reason. Like, there's a reason why UCLA was the number one team in the nation, and honestly, I think this team was just on one. Then the second set, UCLA kind of got off to another lead, but Long Beach State was able to narrow the gap, and eventually they took the lead. They managed to narrowly take that second set 25-23. It was just Long Beach State basically doing what Long Beach State does, and they had them out-scrapping the other team, and I was very impressed. And then the third set happened. UCLA got off to another good start. I thought UCLA just was composed after dropping that second set. But Long Beach State had that LB grit in them. They were gritty all over the place, and honestly, I think I think Long Beach State really knew that they could not go into set number 4 down 2-1, and they actually had a set point. They actually led 20. I think it was like 21-19 or 23-21. Eventually, they did have set point at 24-23, but UCLA being the number one team that they are, they were able to fight off a set point opportunity, and eventually they were able to take that set by a score of 27-25. That was kind of a backbreaker right there. If Long Beach State takes that set, I think UCLA is on their heels, obviously. And I think it's a whole different contest. But unfortunately for the Beach, they wound up seeing that set slip away. Then in set 4, UCLA got off to another hot start, but Long Beach State was able to work their way back into the set. Eventually, they were up 23-22, and then it was tied 23-23. But then UCLA makes an outstanding play at the net. It was like a close play at the net. It's just me talking about it doesn't do it any justice. And eventually UCLA was able to get the point off of a kill off the block. Eventually UCLA had match point. They didn't convert on their second one, but UCLA gave the ball back to them by missing that serve. And honestly, for UCLA, all they needed was just another match point. And eventually they were able to do so, and they eventually were able to get the match. They were able to clinch the match off of a Long Beach State hitting error, which, oh man, that's basically described Long Beach State's night in a nutshell right there. Unfortunately for them, they unfortunately just couldn't really come up clutch in the extra points. It really just felt like Long Beach State was just not the Long Beach State that we all thought they would be. Like I mentioned the fact that UCLA was just the number one team. They just looked like it. They played the part. And one player who really stood out was Cameron Thorne. He was just absolutely outstanding. He had 13 kills, no hitting errors. He had 16 swings, and he also had 6 blocks as well. This guy was just on one. And I think Long Beach State might have a weakness of not being able to defend the middle, and that's not good if you're Long Beach State. Also, Sean Kelly and Andrew Rama also were big as well, and that was also incredible. Andrew Rowan did a great job, and everyone is already look. I'm not going to say UCLA is the best. UCLA is obviously the best team in the nation, but everyone is starting to crown or UCLA right away. And I'm just going to say this. Look, let's all slow our roll here. Let's all not crown UCLA right away. Let's all not crown them right away. And I think for UCLA, they are the number one team, but I don't think we should crown them right away. I think we should just let it all play out, and then just not like jump to conclusions. I think for UCLA, they still have a little ways to go because they've got a lot of good teams on the horizon, such as UC Irvine this week. They also got to play a UC Santa Barbara team that's red hot. They also play USC the following week. They've also got Hawaii at Hawaii, which is going to be a big matchup. And Pepperdine's going to come in ready to go. And everyone's saying that the team with the best setter has wound up winning the national championship. Well, I agree to an extent. I think I don't necessarily 100% agree to that statement fully. I think that is 100% true, but you also got to remember that there are a lot of you have to have a good setter also needs to have good options, not just on the pins, but on the outside, on the middle as well. So my takeaway for UCLA is they're the clear number one team. They didn't have a few close calls. They were gritty at home. They wound up winning in front of 4,842 fans, which was absolutely amazing. I think not a lot of teams are stopping this UCLA team. And I think for UCLA, the sky's the limit for them. If they just clean up the errors and clean up the miscues and just make sure they don't allow the other team to get into the point to the what do we call it? The danger zone range. I think this UCLA team can really do some damage. I think this UCLA team is going to be something special. And look, Andrew Rowan is the best center, and he's got a lot of good talent. And someone who I really think is stepping up that doesn't give it a lot of credit is Chris Connolly. That's twice he has come up big against his former team, which I think is incredible if you ask me. So I think for UCLA, they are playing the part of they're the number one team in the nation, and I think this is looking like this is going to be the year for them. Now, my takeaway for Long Beach State is this. Look, you got to come up big when it matters most, and you got to make your points when it matters. Like when it's tied 24-24, you just can't serve out of bounds. I get serving aggressive is key when it comes to the game of volleyball, but honestly, it's like you just cannot allow that to happen. You just can't give the ball back to a team like UCLA. And Alex kind of tried to get high hands off the ball, but unfortunately, he missed it entirely. So overall, it's just a tough loss for Long Beach State. And unless Long Beach State sees UCLA lose to a bunch of teams, I just don't think that a lot of teams are going to be taking this team down. I think this UCLA team is going to be number one until said otherwise. Like this team, like you're about to see in the AVCA polls that everyone thinks UCLA is number one, and I don't think anybody is going to say otherwise. So if anyone has Long Beach State as number one or anyone else at number one, yeah, there's a problem. All right, but that is that for that little matchup. So we obviously need to go over that matchup just because it was the marquee match of the week. But we also had other matches that happened. Starting on Wednesday, in terms of the notable matches, we had UC Santa Barbara, number 14 UC Santa Barbara, sweeping Pepperdine. This was a massive win for the Gauchos. So if you remember the first time the Gauchos were able to push Pepperdine to 5 before Pepperdine pulled off the 5-set win. This time, Santa Barbara, they came with a lot of fire in their belly, and they were able to sweep Pepperdine in Santa Barbara. Just an unbelievable win for Santa Barbara as George Bruning led the way with 16 kills. It's good to see George Bruning have himself a match just because he kind of was on the struggle bus when it came to certain matches. I think against USC, he kind of wasn't his George Bruning self. But honestly, he really came up big. Ethan Saint also had 12 kills. As a team, Santa Barbara hit 275 while holding Pepperdine to only a hitting percentage of 144 as Cole Hartke led the way with 10 kills. So this is obviously Santa Barbara's best win by far this season. I think this is a very good Santa Barbara team. I think this team definitely has a lot of upside to them. And I think this Santa Barbara team, I think, is starting to become the Santa Barbara team that I thought they were supposed to be. Now, Pepperdine, unfortunately, did have a little bit of a tough slip-up just because I feel Pepperdine is a whole lot better than this. I think this is not the Pepperdine team we all thought they were going to be. This isn't the Pepperdine team that returned a majority of its starters and that made the Final Four last year. So I think for Pepperdine, they still have a little bit of things to learn from, because now all their losses have come from the Big West Conference. They lost to UCI, they lost to Long Beach State, now they lost to Santa Barbara. I know they beat CSUN, but still. So tough way to go to lose if you're Pepperdine, but Santa Barbara is the real deal. I think they definitely have a lot of upside to their team. Then we jump to some Thursday Miva Madness, and yeah, I'm just gonna also say this: I was the one that came up with Miva Madness to begin with. It was way back in, like, I think maybe 2022 or 23. Either way, I titled one of my shows Miva Madness, and this is what we've got in terms of Miva Madness on a Thursday. We had number 13 Ohio State taking down number 8 Ball State in straight sets, which was just incredible right there. So this could have been the battle for first place had Ohio State not lost to Queens. Unfortunately, that is not the case, and sadly, we now have a logjam for first place when it comes to Ohio State, Ball State, and Loyola Chicago. So the Buckeyes were led by Shane Wetzel, who had 14 kills. Shane Wetzel is back in the lineup, and that is great news for the Buckeyes. If they did not have Shane Wetzel, I don't know if they win this matchup, but this just goes to show how big and important Shane Wetzel can be for the Ohio State. Stanislaw Chichinsky also had 10 kills, which was massive. As a team, Ohio State hit 453, which was just incredible right there. They also got 9 kills on 9 swings for a perfect 1,000, courtesy of Eliel Salvatores. So that was big right there. Like, he was big in the middle for the Buckeyes. He's a transfer from Lincoln Memorial, mind you. For the Cardinals, they were led by Ryan Lewis, who had 13 kills. They also got 12 kills from Patrick Rogers. As a team, the Cardinals actually hit 330, but they missed 12 serves, only had 1 ace. And for the Buckeyes, they outblocked them 6.5 to 5. And, Ball State also outdug Ohio State by 3, but still. I thought Ohio State was just on one in terms of their hitting. They only had 8 hitting errors on the night, which is just really impressive if you ask me. So a great win for the Ohio State. And then staying on Thursday's Miva Madness train, we had Lindenwood. The Lions just continue to roar, reverse sweeping McKendree. So this was kind of the battle of which team was going to be getting back on track. Lindenwood was coming off of a loss to Ball State, while McKendree was losers of 3 straight. The Bearcats were hungry to get back into the win column. For the Lions, they also were hungry to get back into the win column. McKendree went up 2-0 in the match. And then Lindenwood, even though all 3 sets they wound up winning were close, they wound up winning them, and they wound up reverse sweeping the Bearcats, which was just big right there. So an amazing win for Lindenwood. They continue their amazing start to the season as Luke Kraft led the way with 21 kills. Brendan Luthane added 12 kills. As a team, Lindenwood hit 351. Shout out to Zach Solomon, who had 49 assists and 9 digs and 4 service aces. Lindenwood, as a team, they had 11 service aces, as Kraft had 4 of them. So great performance from Luke Kraft. And then for McKendree, they had 9 service aces of their own, 3 of which went to Tyler Tripp and 2 went to Bryce Wetjen, Nate Flater, and Roland Lively. But they also missed 20 serves. And McKendree was led by Sam Hoskin, who had 16 kills, while Bryce Wetjen added 11 kills. So that's 4 straight losses for McKendree, as now they're under 500. But I'll say this, McKendree might be the best sub-500 team in NCAA men's volleyball this year. So it was a tough way to lose for the Bearcats, but Lindenwood, this just goes to show how for real Lindenwood is. This Lindenwood team is very impressive. And then also on Friday, outside of the Long Beach State UCLA match, we had other decent matchups. We had this historic matchup. We had Fairleigh Dickinson, the Knights of FDU, sweeping Princeton for the first time in its program's history in the Battle of New Jersey, FDU Princeton edition. So this is arguably Fairleigh Dickinson's best win in its program's 5-year tenure. I got to give a shout out to Carl France as the head coach of FDU, as he obviously was he was hoping for a win like this, and his team got it. Jamal Ellis Carballo led the way for the Knights with 13 kills, while Landon Biro and Rayjon Suarez Palacios both had 9 kills. Dylan McFadden also had 8 kills, as FDU hit .384 while holding Princeton to only a hitting percentage of .184. The Tigers were led by Owen Mellon, who had 9 kills. They also got 7 kills from Ethan Wells. Man, Princeton has just been on the struggle bus lately when it comes to wins and losses. Like, they lost. It just seems like it's one loss after another. Like the Concordia Irvine loss was one thing. The UC Irvine and USC losses were another thing. The Penn State losses, where they almost pulled off the reverse sweep but didn't, were another thing. But man, losing to FDU. Now, don't get me wrong. FDU has been long yearning for a win like this, and it just goes to show that they have a very good roster. Watch out for this team come conference play in terms of the NEC. Then you also had NJIT. Speaking of New Jersey, NJIT sweeping George Mason on Friday, and they also outlasted Manhattan in 5 on Saturday. So don't look now, but the Highlanders of NJIT have won 10 straight matches after starting out 0-5. And then Penn State wound up sweeping Harvard. They got 14 blocks from Owen Rose, which is a program record. And I think it might be a record for number of blocks in the rally scoring era when it comes to NCAA men's volleyball. You also had Damon outlasting Dominican of New York in 5, which was big right there. We also had Stanford sweeping Concordia Irvine. I thought that was a sneaky series right there. And then I also I should mention number 14 UC Santa Barbara took down, tied for number 19 Lincoln Memorial in 4. That was kind of a grinded out set where offensive points were just tough to come by. It was either you're getting blocked, or you're hitting it out of bounds, or you're hitting it into the net, or you're hitting it out of play. Both these teams had ugly hitting percentage. And then this matchup I went to in terms of Friday's matches. I went to the Masters at Vanguard. So I don't really cover a whole lot of NAIA teams. Shame on me. So I decided to go to Masters Vanguard. These two, fun fact about both these teams is that this was my first ever NAIA men's volleyball match back when Vanguard was an NAIA team. This is their second year in NCAA men's volleyball Division 1-2 or National Collegiate Men's Volleyball D1-2. So the Masters wound up winning the match fairly easily. I mean, Vanguard had their chances, especially in set 3. Like, Masters was just spoon-feeding them points off of missed serves and hitting errors. But the Mustangs were led by Isaac Seltzer, who had 12 kills. Andrew Kargas, who I covered back in junior college, he had 11 kills. Trace Oswald had 10 kills. As a team, the Masters hit .395, nearly hitting .400, which is pretty nice if you ask me. And then for Vanguard, they were led by Logan Fremont, who had 7 kills. They also got 4 kills from Koa Laboy and Micah Sebesma. But it wasn't enough, as the Lions only hit 200. So the Masters College they're the number 1 team in NAIA. And Vanguard has played a lot of good teams this year. They've played... I imagine their strength of schedule is pretty darn up there. The problem is that they're not winning these matches, or they're not taking sets off of some of these teams. They've played the number 1 team in NCAA men's volleyball in UCLA. They played the number 1 team in NAIA men's volleyball. They played the number 1 team in NCAA Division III men's volleyball. They also played the number 2 team in the nation in Long Beach State one time. They played USC, the then number 4 team in NCAA Division. I think they were the number 4 team. I think they were number 5, actually. It was either 4 or 5. But they also played UC Irvine, which is another top 5 team. The only top 5 team that Vanguard hasn't played is Hawaii. So it shows that they don't duck anybody. This is a Vanguard team that is not afraid of anybody by any means. So overall, I got to give it up to Vanguard. Like, their losses are to quality teams, but they also have to beat some of these good teams as well. Anyway, so jumping on over to Saturday, we had Ohio State sweeping Purdue Fort Wayne, which was a good win. George Mason got back on track and knocked off FDU. Penn State took down Harvard in 4, which was nice. I attended Stanford Concordia Irvine. So that matchup was an interesting matchup. Concordia was actually leading for late in the set. They were up 23-22, but then they got done in by 3 consecutive errors: a service error, a hitting error, which was basically disconnection when it came to the setter and the hitter. And actually, no, it wasn't disconnection between setter and the hitter. That was the final point of the set. But it was a hit into the net, and then a disconnection between the setter and the hitter. And Stanford winning that first set was massive because Stanford just controlled the momentum from there on out. Stanford didn't even need a player with 10 or more kills. Their kill leader was Moses Wagner, who had 7 kills, but they also got good contributions from Nate Clinton, Teo Snooey, Luke McFall. Honestly, this Stanford team was just, they needed to get back into the win column. And, man, Concordia needed this win in the worst way possible. They needed to at least take 1 from Stanford because now they've got Long Beach State this upcoming week. So, that's a brutal, the schedule just continues to get tough for Concordia Irvine. I think their next matchup in terms of like a gimme matchup is probably going to be possibly against Jessup, either Jessup or UC Merced. I mean, those are the matchups they have to win. Otherwise, they won't be able to qualify for the MPSF tournament because the top 8 teams qualify for the MPSF tournament. Speaking of the MPSF, BYU took down Fort Valley State on Friday and on Saturday. The Saturday match actually meant a lot because that was Sean Olmstead's 200th win, which was absolutely incredible right there. So congratulations to Sean Olmstead on surpassing 200 wins as a head coach. Job well done. You also had UC San Diego sweeping Menlo. You had Masters defeating Vanguard in Santa Clara, this time in 4. Ball State swept Northern Kentucky to get back on track. So that was pretty much that right there in terms of the notable matchups. And on Sunday, Sunday there was one notable matchup. We had Lewis outlasting Queens in a 5-set barn burner. This just goes to show that the Queens of North Carolina, they can play. This team knows how to play. So do not sleep on Queens by any means. Roger Peluso has that team going in the right direction. And in case you don't know who Roger Peluso is, he's actually the father of Ryan Peluso, student athlete at Long Beach State and for men's volleyball. I actually did an article on Queens men's volleyball on middlehitter.com. Shout out to former set point guest Kevin Pratt. So definitely check that out if you can. And that'll do it for the NCAA men's volleyball season in week 8. So let's jump on into the AVCA poll for this week. So UCLA is the outright number 1. They got every first place vote. All 25 first place votes went to those gutty little Bruins, and for good reason. Long Beach State still holding steady at number 2. BYU jumped to number 6 after Pepperdine lost to UC Santa Barbara. The only true change is that Purdue Fort Wayne is into the top 20. You also had UC Santa Barbara going up a couple spots, which was the biggest movement this week. Other than that, nothing really changed all that much. I mean, Ball State fell down a couple spots. UC San Diego moved up a spot. Loyola moved up a spot. So I think for the AVCA poll, nothing really changed all that much. So you had that right there. So the off-the-block media poll from last week. So last week was UCLA 1, Long Beach State 2, UC Irvine 3, Hawaii 4, USC 5, Pepperdine 6, Ball State 7, BYU 8, Loyola 9, and Lindenwood 10. That was pretty much my bout, except I had Lindenwood at 9 and Loyola at 10 based off of tiebreakers. So you had that right there. And for whom I voted for in the off-the-block media poll for this week, I voted UCLA 1, Long Beach State 2, UCI 3, Hawaii 4, USC 5, BYU 6, I put Ball State at 7. I feel that's a little bit justified. I mean, Ball State did lose to the Ohio State, but I think that's more of a justified win as opposed to losing to Santa Barbara in straight sets after beating them the first go-around. I put Pepperdine at 8, Loyola at 9, and Lindenwood at 10, just because everyone and their moms likes to have Loyola at 9 and Lindenwood at 10, which I kind of disagree with. I actually would prefer putting Lindenwood at 9, but since they just recently lost to Ball State, I think putting them at 10 is just fine. I think they deserve to still be in the top 10 of the off-the-block media poll, but I digress. All right, but that is going to do it for the off-the-block media poll portion. So now let's preview week 9 of the NCAA men's volleyball season. So let me just fix that right here. I thought I did, but all right. Week 9 of the NCAA men's volleyball season. It starts tomorrow, and it's actually good that I haven't been able to do my weekly things, such as my starting rotation of the week or my top matches to watch for. So that will all be released tomorrow. I've just been so busy today, just never ends with me, and I've got a lot of other busy things tomorrow and on Wednesday and then on Thursday. It just does not end. Anyway, so the top matches to watch for start on Wednesday. So we have UCLA, UC Santa Barbara. Number 1, UCLA at number 12, UC Santa Barbara. All right, the Big West Gauntlet continues for those gutty little Bruins, and this one is going to be a tricky matchup. So it's a long drive down to Santa Barbara. I think UCLA's got to be careful with this matchup because obviously they're going to be riding the highs off of beating Long Beach State, but you also got to remember, UC Santa Barbara just knocked off Pepperdine in straight sets. And they also knocked off Lincoln Memorial. So the Santa Barbara team knows how to play. I think the Santa Barbara team can really come to play. But the big question is, will they be able to keep up with UCLA's hype? Because they've got some big boys like Cam Thorne, David Decker, Sean Kelly, Andrew Rowan. The list goes on and on. And for UCLA, it's just a matter of they just got to play their game. And they got to make sure they don't let George Bruning or Riggs Guy go off, or Ethan Saint or Ben Pearson or anyone of that sort. So you have that right there. And then also on Wednesday, if you look at the NCAA website, you're not going to see this matchup because this matchup was like a last-minute addition after the NIL tournament was canceled. So on Wednesday, you have number 6 BYU heading down to the Big Island to take on number 3 Hawaii. The two teams also face each other on Friday. This will be a 7 p.m. Hawaii time start, which is 9 p.m. Pacific time. And if you're on the East Coast, I'll pray for you. All right, this is really good. I'm glad BYU and Hawaii are rekindling their rivalry. And I'm glad Sean Olmstead and Charlie Wade were able to add this on the schedule following the cancellation of the NIL tournament. I think it's really cool to see that. And honestly, I really think that this matchup can go either way. BYU has kind of been riding the highs as of late. They don't have too many bad losses. Excuse me for a second. Sorry, just sneezed. But anyway, BYU doesn't really have too many bad losses. I mean, they lost twice to UC Irvine. Big deal. But against Hawaii, this is going to really challenge them. This is going to be a uphill climb. Now, Hawaii did have a bye last week, so they kind of can lick their wounds. I know they have a few players banged up here and there, so I think for Hawaii, this is kind of the week off. Last week was kind of the week off that they needed, though I did see some of the players partaking in a slam dunk contest. Nothing too big, though. I think it was like Roman Payne. Was it Roman Payne? I don't think it was Roman Payne because I think he still has that Achilles injury. But it was like one of the middles. And it was like Travell Jordan, Thatcher Fallbush, and I'm blanking on it wasn't Roman Payne, but it was like one of the other middles on Hawaii. It's blanking I'm blanking on it, but honestly, it'll probably come to my mind in a little bit. But yeah, 3 of the players partook in a dunk contest at a Hawaii men's basketball match, which I thought was pretty cool right there. I think that was pretty nice. So No, it was Finn Kearney. So it was Finn Kearney, Travell Jordan, and Thatcher Fallbush, which, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, let them have their fun. I mean, people that are judging them saying, oh, they shouldn't be doing that. Well, I mean, Charlie Wade is the one that's wanting this. So if anything, Charlie Wade would have to talk to the men's basketball team or the athletics department in that regard. So I digress, though. But yeah, BYU Hawaii is the series of the week. Both those teams are going to really come in hot. I think BYU has a chance, but I really want to see what they could do outside of Smith Fieldhouse. I think they have potential, but playing in Hawaii is going to be a madhouse for those Cougars. But we shall see. And yes, I think playing in Stan Sheriff Center is much tougher than playing in Smith Fieldhouse. Yes, the altitude is there, but Hawaii has like at least 5,000, maybe 6,000 a crowd. And these Hawaii fans always support their team. And I imagine this week is going to be quite loaded with Hawaii fans. I think it's going to be like at least 7,000. I want, like, Hawaii fans, this is my message to you. Show support for your team. Like, Wednesday's going to be tough. I get it because that's a weekday. But Friday, cancel your plans. It's a week. It's basically the start of the weekend. I want to see 8,000 in attendance for that second Hawaii BYU match. And if you can get me like 7,000 to 8,000 on Wednesday, that'd be even awesome. But I want to see some numbers broken, at least for Hawaii's sake. So, all right, moving on. Thursday, we don't really have much in terms of Miva Mania, but we do have number 13 Ohio State at number 15 Lewis. All right, Lewis is on a 3-game winning streak, and hopefully for their sake, they can get Osan O's back. For Ohio State, they've won 2 straight after they lost to Queens. If Ohio State wants to continue to keep pace with Ball State and Loyola in the MIVA conference, I think Ohio State has to beat opponents like this. I think Lewis had great success last week and the week before against Rockhurst and Queens. But this time, I think Ohio State should be able to pull this one off fairly easily. I mean, it's great that I forget I think it's like I'm blanking on one of the the players' names that's converted from setter to opposite. But Lewis needs Osan O's back because don't get me wrong, I think Lewis is a solid team, but they'd be even better with Osan O's back. So you have that right there. And then Friday, you have a plethora of matches. NJIT at George Mason. That's a good matchup. But this matchup is a really good matchup. Number 20, Purdue Fort Wayne at number 10, Ball State. So Ball State is obviously coming off. Well, actually, no. They beat Northern Kentucky following the loss to Ohio State. While Purdue Fort Wayne is in the top 20, this is Purdue Fort Wayne's chance to prove that they are amongst some of the best in the MIVA conference. By the way, the MIVA conference has the most teams in the AVCA top 20 of all the conferences, which I think is pretty incredible if you ask me. But Purdue Fort Wayne Ball State is the Battle of Indiana right there, which I think is really cool. So that rivalry is going to be rekindled. Do not sleep on Purdue Fort Wayne. If Ball State thinks that this is going to be an easy win just because they're at home, think again. I imagine Purdue Fort Wayne's fans are going to be flocking all the way over to Muncie for the Battle of Indiana right here. Because Purdue Fort Wayne does have a solid team. Logan Muir is playing great. Owen Banner is still solid as a rock. I think this Purdue Fort Wayne team can do damage. And then also on Friday, we have the match of the week. Number 1 UCLA at number 4 UC Irvine. You already know I'm going to be at this matchup. And here's a fair warning to everyone that won't be at the matchup. It's not going to be streamed. And what's even worse is I'm going to be a little late to that match, unfortunately, because I got a PA announce a junior college men's volleyball match that same night. But I imagine I'm only going to be missing like a bits and pieces of the first couple sets. But this one's going to be a really good matchup. Like UCLA, UC Irvine could possibly be a Final Four matchup preview. So I think for UCLA, this is also the conclusion of their, I wouldn't say non-conference schedule, but this is the conclusion of the Big West Conference Gauntlet, but in most of the non-conference schedule, they still have the Outrigger Invitational. But this could also be a massive trap game for UCLA because they've got USC on the docket next week. UCLA could very easily overlook UC Irvine, and UCI is actually a very solid team. They did not have a match last week, and I imagine Trevor Clark is going to be back in action this week, just because he missed the Concordia Irvine match, and then he also missed the USC matches due to injury in warmups. But now UC Irvine should be getting most of their guys back, and that's going to really make UC Irvine a dangerous team. So I'm really excited to be attending that matchup. It's not going to be streamed, unfortunately. This is the last time that UC Irvine's going to not stream their matches. The rest of the way, when it comes to Big West Conference play and the Big West Conference tournament, UC Irvine will be streaming its matches. So don't worry, at volleyball fans. This is the last time you'll have to put up with this. I think UC Irvine has a shot at UCLA, but if UCLA continues to play like it has been as of late, I think this one could be a fairly easy match for the Bruins, but you never know. I mean, Irvine is hungry for a win over UCLA. I don't even remember the last time UC Irvine beat UCLA. It has to be like quite a bit. I think it might have been like in 2000. I think it might have been before post-COVID. So we'll have to wait and see when it comes to that matchup. So I'm really excited for UCLA, UC Irvine. That is 100% the match of the week. And then a little sneaky series, you've got Vanguard at UC San Diego, which is basically the homecoming for Brad Rostratter. He used to coach Vanguard, but now he's at UC San Diego. You also got Long Beach State at Concordia Irvine. This would have been a whole lot more exciting had Concordia had a little bit more of a win streak, but they are on the struggle bus as of late, so they definitely need to get back on track. Sneaky good matchup is Queens McKendree. I think that could be a real good matchup right here just because Queens has been competitive throughout most of their MIVA conference matches. And McKendree, if there's ever a time for McKendree to get back into the win column, it's right here and now. That said, if McKendree thinks they're going to be walking into this match against Queens expecting a free win, I think they got another thing coming. So that one's going to be an interesting and sneaky good matchup. And then I think this week starts NEC play because you got DUville and UMES or University of Maryland East Shore. Though I did hear that the campus is going to be closed, so I don't know if they're going to be postponing those matches, so we'll have to wait and see. Also, another sneaky good matchup, Lindenwood at Fort Valley State on Friday, and I think they also play on Saturday. Yes, they do. Both at Fort Valley State. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. Fort Valley State does not duck anybody. I like what Fort Valley State does. And they also played Newberry earlier in the day as well. So double header right there. They do not duck anybody. Then this one's also, and then in the Conference of Carolinas, you also got this little matchup right here. Mount Olive at Belmont Abbey. This right here is the de facto series right there. I think it's going to be a really fun series. That's on Saturday. I think they also play on Friday? Question mark. No, Mount Olive plays North Greenville. But I think the Mount Olive and Belmont Abbey also play later on in the season because Conference of Carolinas does things differently than the likes of the MPSF and the Big West and all thing and so on and so forth. So and then you got some EIVA action. Charleston at Harvard. Solid matchup right there. Dominican at Princeton. Man, Princeton's got to get up off the mat with this matchup right here. So you know what you got to do, Princeton. And then that's pretty much that right there. Except there is actually one more matchup on Sunday, which actually starts the month of March. Also, can I just say we're already in week 9 of the NCAA men's volleyball season. I can't believe it either. You got number 13 Ohio State at number 8 Loyola Chicago on Sunday to cap off the top matches of the NCAA week 9 men's volleyball season. I think this one's going to be a really good matchup. And this one could be a de facto matchup for first place or for seeding in terms of the MIVA tournament. Ohio State has been on a tear. Okay, I wouldn't say on a tear, but this is a big week for them. They've got Lewis and Loyola this week. Well, Loyola has to still stay stay within striking distance of Ball State and all those other teams. So, and as well as Lindenwood. So, I think Ohio State Loyola is going to be a very fun matchup, and this is also the first match between those two, as the first time these two teams have met since the Amiva Conference Tournament Championship. So keep that in mind right there. So that one's going to be a really fun matchup. But that's going to do it for the Week 9 NCAA Men's Volleyball Preview. We're going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, we got some NCAA Beach Volleyball to discuss. We've got some LOVB to discuss, and then we've also got some MLV to discuss. So keep it locked here. You were listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Notorious Law.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
And we are back with the second half of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows. Also, I know this is a show dedicated to all things volleyball, but I do want to give a congratulations to the U.S. women's and men's hockey teams for winning gold in the Winter Olympics, which I think was pretty awesome if you ask me. Both teams wound up winning in overtime. And also a huge shout out to Freddie B and Adam Cardick for having an outstanding show recapping the gold medal matches from the Winter Olympics, which they really crushed it in yesterday's show. So big kudos to Adam and Freddie on their recap show yesterday. So there you have it. All right, now let's get back into the volleyball action. So let's actually talk some NCAA beach volleyball. So, man, before we get on into the week recap, of course, Tuesday, last Tuesday, the ABCA preseason beach volleyball poll came out. And, of course, it had to come out the day before or the day after I did my show. So, thanks, ABCA. Why do you got to do this to me? And when are you going to get your NCAA men's volleyball show on YouTube like you have for 6 rotations? Like, come on now. Come on. Anyway, so the ABCA poll was out. So UCLA is the outright number 1, which I think makes sense. Stanford's number 2. Cal Poly is number 3. Kind of makes sense. USC is 4. I think that's a little low for SC, but you never know. TCU, last year's reigning national champion, is 5. That's a little low for a national champion. I know they lost quite a bit, aka their 2 Olympians from that they've had for 4 years, but man, that's a little harsh if you're TCU. 6 is Texas. They actually got a first place vote, which is pretty good. 7 is LMU, which made the finals last year. 8 is Florida State. 9 is Cal. 10 Long Beach State. 11 Arizona State. 12 LSU. 13 GCU. 14 is Stetson. 15 FAU or Florida Atlantic. 16 is Hawaii. 17 North Florida. 18 Georgia State. 19 Washington. And 20 is Tulane. So, I think you're about all right. So that's the ABCA poll. I don't really have too much gripes with this. I mean, it's a fascinating poll. I mean, the first polls are sometimes some of the worst polls. But week 1 was chaotic in terms of the NCAA beach volleyball season. Felt like one team was beating another. And the outrigger, the outrigger Duke Kanamoku Beach Classic, Kawanamoku Beach Classic was outstanding. It was just unbelievable. Like there was bad weather. You had teams upsetting other teams. Like, for example, the first match was Stanford USC. USC took down Stanford in 5, which was pretty darn good. Actually, the first match was UCLA Texas, where UCLA just bulldozed Texas, and then USC pulled off the first upset of the NCAA beach volleyball season. But the true upset came at the hands of the likes of Hawaii. Hawaii, number 16 Hawaii, who has a new head coach this year, they took down number 1 UCLA 3-2. That was incredible, if you ask me. I don't think anyone had that on their bingo card. Hawaii did that, which was just unbelievable. That is what we call Manoa magic right there. And then Stanford also beat UCLA. Cal kind of struggled throughout this whole, I wouldn't say tournament, but they lost a bunch of close matches, and they did beat Hawaii. But Mother Nature did kind of have to rain on the parade of this whole event as the UCLA-Cal matchup got canceled. Stanford, I will say this about them. They actually rebounded nicely following losing to USC because they didn't lose the rest of the way. So good job to Stanford. Texas also beat USC, which was pretty nice. Steinmetzger, that never gets old for Steinmetzger just because he's a UCLA alum. And he also had success beating USC back when he coached UCLA's beach team. You also had UCLA beating USC 3-1. Because of the inclement weather, once the team got to 3 points in the duel, they just said, that's it. It's basically like NCAA or National Collegiate Tournament beach volleyball rules. So, because once a team hits 3 points in the duel, that's it. That's all she wrote. And then, like I said, Cal kind of struggled. LMU was up and down this past week. So that was pretty much that. In reality, technically, Stanford did win the whole thing. They did have the best record of all of the teams. Even if UCLA and Cal faced one another, Stanford would have had the better record. They went 5-1 the whole thing. UCLA went 3-2. USC went 4-2. Texas went 4-2. Cal went 1-4. LMU, I think they went 3-3. I know USC beat them. UCLA beat them. Texas, I think, beat them. But and then so okay, they went 2-4. So my bad. LMU went 2-4. So overall, that was probably an outstanding and crazy beach volleyball tournament right there. Like, Hawaii sure knows how to kick off an NCAA beach volleyball season. Salute to them. And then also in terms of like miscellaneous matches, you had number 11 Arizona State knocking off number 5 TCU and the reigning national champions in 3-2, which was just incredible right there. So I think the AVCA is patting themselves on the back after putting TCU at number 5. But it's early in the season. I think TCU still has some kinks to work out. I think the Horned Frogs will still be up there. I just think that this was kind of the case of week 1 struggles. I think once TCU gets its frog legs back, see what I did there? I think TCU will be jumping and thumping and bumping when it comes to the beach volleyball scene. You also had Arizona knocking off GCU, which was GCU senior night. Yeah, go figure. GCU's first week of the season was its senior night. So the rest of the way, GCU is on the road. So that's kind of brutal for the Lopes, especially losing to kind of your neighborly rival in Arizona. Woof. That's rough right there. And I think that was pretty much it. I think Pepperdine also knocked off Washington. Unfortunately, the NCAA doesn't have beach volleyball scores on their website, which is obviously typical of them. Yeah, NCAA not caring about anything except NCAA women's volleyball. Go figure. Unbelievable, dude. But yeah, that was quite crazy when it came to week 1. So week 1 is in the books. Week 2 is going to be something special. I'll have more of a preview on this. I'll preview more of NCAA beach volleyball next week, just because we got to keep it moving. So, but yeah, week 1 of the NCAA beach volleyball season, I will cover it, and hopefully I'll continue to keep the whole me keeping dual streaks alive, because I've been to at least one duel the past 2 seasons. Why not stop there? Exactly. All right, so that's that right there for the NCAA beach volleyball season. Let's talk a little NCAA women's volleyball. So this was announced today. The Paradise Invitational is coming to NCAA women's volleyball. So the Paradise Invitational will be taking place in the Bahamas, and 4 teams are going to be playing in it, being Kentucky, last year's national championship finalists, Purdue, a team that made the Elite 8, SMU that made the Sweet 16, and then Houston, which is a Power 4 school. That sounded like pretty mean of me, but Houston's kind of seen better days. I hope Houston does get back on track. But those are your 4 teams that are going to be partaking in the Paradise Invitational in the Bahamas. That is really cool. So, man, the Bahamas. Why can't we get like big time events when it comes to NCAA men's volleyball? Like, why? I mean, NCAA beach volleyball has big time events. I mean, they had the whole Duke outrigger thing, and now NCAA women's volleyball has the First Serve showcase, and now they've got the Paradise Invitational. Where's NCAA men's volleyball's big time events? They could have had the NIL tournament, but unfortunately, I don't want to say this is entirely true. I think USA Volleyball dropped the ball on it because there were no sponsorships. There was no communication. There was no promotion. It's unbelievable, dude. So we need NCAA men's volleyball to continue to get more of these events. But I think this is really cool. Having volleyball matches in the Bahamas, I can't imagine it being played outdoors. I mean, if they played outdoors, then they better have a Terraflex court. But isn't it still going to be pretty hot in the Bahamas? I mean, I've never been to the Bahamas. It's probably been like a hot minute since I've been to the Bahamas, but I'm pretty sure the Bahamas is warm during September. So I think that's going to be really interesting if you ask me, but I think it's going to be a very fun event, and NCAA women's volleyball just continues to have just outstanding events. Like what will the NCAA women's volleyball what will NCAA women's volleyball think of next? Don't answer that question because they're probably going to have volleyball on the moon, or they're probably going to have another volleyball day in Nebraska, which I'm probably not going to go to because reasons. Anyway, I also kind of heard that, speaking of volleyball day in Nebraska, they might have it every 4 years, which I think would be pretty cool. I think they should invite different teams, but also invite like the junior colleges as well, or the NAI, or have like an NAI junior college exhibition, which I think would be pretty cool. Anyway, that is that right there when it comes to the NCAA women's volleyball news. Just that little bit of news right there. I'm not going to really get too much into NCAA women's volleyball just because we've got NCAA beach volleyball happening and NCAA men's volleyball happening as well. So there you have it. All right, so that little bit of news is over and done with. Now let's talk some pro women's volleyball. So we have week 7 of the pro volleyball, or the MLV, formerly known as the Pro Volleyball Federation. So we'll start things off on Thursday. We had the Atlanta Vibe hosting the Columbus Fury, where the Vibe took down the Fury in 4 sets, which, look, I'm not ultimately surprised. The Vibe do have a solid roster on paper. I think Atlanta definitely has a potential outside chance of making the playoffs. They're the first one out, however, as they were led by Taylor Smith, who had 13 kills, while Leah Edmond had 10 kills. Taylor Smith had 13 kills. Leah Edmond, 10 kills. Aiko Jones had 9 kills and 10 digs. Edmond had 9 digs as well. Britt Rampelberg had 20 digs, which I thought was pretty incredible. Not bad, if you ask me. 20 digs, that's nice. Avery Carlson had 36 assists to go along with 9 digs. As a team, Atlanta hit 211 while holding Columbus to only 179. As the Fury, they were led by Raina Terry, who had 17 kills. They also got 13 kills from Akasha Anderson. She also had 13 digs as well. Camille Hiapo also had 20 digs too. They also got 30 assists from Ashley Evans, who also had 13 digs. Megan Courtney Lush had 14 digs, but it was not enough as the Fury succumbed to Atlanta on the road. I mean, if Atlanta wants to make the playoffs, they're going to really need to start winning a lot of these matches. Speaking of winning, we had the battle of first place right here in the Indy Ignite playing at the Dallas Pulse. But the Indy Ignite just continue to win. This is quite interesting. So the Indy Ignite swept the Dallas Pulse in Dallas. I thought this was going to be a letdown spot, even though Indy did kind of struggle in the third and second set. But Indy swept Dallas on the road, which is pretty incredible. And the interesting thing about Indy is that they have not hit their rough patch like the Vegas Thrill did. Like every team in the MLV/PVF has had a rough patch moment where they've lost a bunch of matches in a row. Not the Indy Ignite. I know they're only in their second year, but still, that's pretty incredible if you ask me. As Indy was led by Lekator Bemmer-Manet, who had 11 kills. They also got 9 kills from Anna DeBeer. They got 7 kills from Lydia Martin. They got 14 digs from Elena Scott, and they got 33 assists and 9 digs from Mia Tuaniga. As a team, Indy hit 262, while Dallas hit 257, as the Pulse were led by Sofia Maldonado Diaz. She had 18 kills, which was pretty nice if you ask me. Marcus Los Great says salute. Salute to you too, Marcus. I appreciate you, my brother. Back to the MLV. Natalia Valentin Anderson had 38 assists to go along with 10 digs. Pretty solid, even though that was a 3-set match. They also got 8 digs from Mimi Collier, and Kaylee Cox had 7 kills. But it wasn't enough, as Indy wound up winning the match for first place. And then Indy followed that up by taking down the Atlanta Vibe on the road in 4 sets. So a very successful week for the Indy Ignite. This Ignite team is really something special. I thought the Ignite were kind of going to have a little bit of a letdown spot this week, but the Ignite are just lighting it up as Cameron Hanna led the way with 20 kills. They also got 14 kills from Lecator member Monet. They got 16 kills from Anna DeBeer, who also had 13 digs. Lydia Martin had 8 kills. As a team, Indy hit 236 while holding Atlanta to a hitting percentage of 204. Atlanta was led by Aiko Jones, who had 15 kills, while Leah Edmond had 14 kills. Unfortunately, it was just not enough. Look, the fact that Indy wound up pulling off 2 road wins is pretty incredible, if you ask me. I think this Indy team is a threat to win the match for $1 million. Now, that said, if they get the number 1 seed, that'll be interesting because all the teams from the MLV/PVF playoffs that have been the number 1 seed have wound up failing to make it past the semifinals. So, something to take into consideration. And then you had Sunday's triple header. So, Sunday was a triple header. It featured the Grand Rapids Rise and Dallas Pulse. To no one's surprise, the Dallas Pulse wound up sweeping the Grand Rapids Rise. Look, that was not surprising by any means. Grand Rapids is arguably the worst team in the league. I'm sorry, Rise fans, but it's the truth. The Pulse, on the other hand, they were led by Sofia Maldonado Diaz, who had 17 kills. They got 14 kills from Mimi Collier, 9 kills from Kaylee Cox. As a team, Dallas hit 322 while holding Grand Rapids to only a hitting percentage of 241. The Rise were led by Paige Briggs Romine, who had 13 kills, while Carly Snyder added 9 kills. But again, this is kind of the difference between Dallas and Grand Rapids. Dallas is like built to be good this season at the very least. Maybe built to be good in the near future, but we'll have to wait and see. And then this result kind of surprised me. The Columbus Fury took down the Orlando Valkyries on the road in 4 sets. So the first 2 sets were very close. Columbus wound up winning those sets by scores of 29-27 and 28-26. Orlando kind of found their firepower back in the 3rd set, but then Columbus found their swagger in set number 4, as Columbus was led by, I'm going to guess, Raina Terry. She had 19 kills and 14 digs. The Columbus Fury were just digging everything. They had 86 digs compared to Orlando's 78. They got 27 digs from Camille Hiapo, 13 digs from Ashley Evans, who had 47 assists. Megan Courtney Lesh had 16 digs to go along with 11 kills. Like I said, Raina Terry had 19 kills with 14 digs. Akasha Anderson had 16 kills and 11 digs, which was very nice. Reagan Pittman Nelson, she must have recently gotten married. She had 9 kills, which was nice. For Orlando, please tell me they had. For Orlando, they were led by Nia Scheim, who had 13 kills. They also got 12 kills from Bree Kelly, 10 kills from Kaz Brown, and 8 kills from Courtney Schwann. No Brittany Abercrombie yet again, and no. Okay, Charity Looper did play in sets 3 and 4, but no Brittany Abercrombie. Which, God, I gotta go back and do some research. They also got 6 kills from Hannah Maddox, and then 8 digs from Maddox as well. Maddox didn't play in sets 3 and 4, so man, Charity Looper also had 9 digs to go along with 4 kills. But Orlando's really going through it. Orlando needs Brittany Abercrombie back. I need to look more into what happened with Brittany Abercrombie because they need her back in the worst way. And then finally, we had the Omaha Supernovas playing at the San Diego Mojo. So remember how I said that the only concern that I had for Omaha was them playing on the road and them getting tripped up, not being in Omaha? That's kind of what happened. The Mojo wound up taking down the Supernovas in 5. Now, the Mojo have actually been winning a lot as of late, so I'm actually quite surprised. And this is Alicia Glass-Childress's first season after she had a pretty solid MLV season or an MLV career. as San Diego was led by Morgan Lewis, who had 17 kills and 9 digs. They also got 16 kills and 19 digs from Grace Loberg. She was quite the stat stuffer. They got 55 assists and 17 digs from Marley Montserrat. That's a nice little night right there. Maya Tabron had 13 digs to go along with 7 kills. They got 10 digs from Shannon Scully along with 3 kills. And then for Omaha, they were led by Sarah Parsons. I'm sorry. Reagan Cooper led the way with 16 kills. Sarah Parsons added 15 kills to go along with 18 digs. Cooper had 14 digs as well. Brooke Nuneviller did not play. Oh, that's a drag. They definitely need Brooke Nuneviller. Sydney Hilly had 42 assists and 16 digs. I guess I mentioned this already. Parsons had 18 digs to lead that department. Their libero is Elena Ogilvy. She had 14 digs, which was solid. Emily Londot had 11 kills and 12 digs. Oh man, that's tough right there, losing to San Diego. But San Diego, if there's one thing that San Diego's kind of taught me, they're actually playing a whole lot better. They're no longer the worst team in the league. They're actually the 3rd worst team in the league. So they're at least not in the cellar. And the best part is what's interesting is that San Diego is actually one full game behind Orlando for the final playoff spot. And they're a half a game behind the Atlanta Vibe for 5th place, which is pretty darn solid. But you also got to remember, the top 4 teams from the MLV standings advance. So back to the Omaha Supernovas. Oh, man. Omaha is kind of concerning. What's even more crazy is that San Diego is actually a game and a half behind Omaha. So, yikes. Omaha's got to really get back on track, though not having Brooke Nuneviller does not make matters better. So Omaha needs to get healthy, just like the Orlando Valkyries need to get healthy. I also did Orlando have a Chompu? I forgot to mention if Chompu Gudapard was back. Well, I'll just refer to her as Chompu just because everyone and their mothers that cover the MLV refer to her as Chompu. No, Hannah Pukas was the setter. She had 44 assists and 19 digs. So, yeah, Orlando needs to get healthy. They need to get healthy back ASAP. They need Brittany Abercrombie back if she can get back, but we shall see. All right, so now for Week 8 preview of the MLV. So Thursday, you've got the San Diego Mojo at the Grand Rapids Rise. It would be typical San Diego if they wound up losing to the Grand Rapids Rise after they wound up beating the Omaha Supernovas. If there's ever a chance for San Diego to move up in the standings, it's this matchup alone. It's also the next matchup on Thursday. But San Diego has to take care of what they can take care of on Thursday. If they can win that matchup, they got it made in terms of like moving up in the standings. But they have to win that matchup. And Grand Rapids is basically the bottom dweller of the MLV, which is they're tied for being the bottom dweller in terms of the MLV standings. Like they're both Columbus and Grand Rapids are both 3-8. So, ouch. And then also on Thursday, you've got the Atlanta Vibe and the Omaha Supernovas. All right, this is an interesting matchup. If Atlanta wins and Omaha loses, then Atlanta gets closer to surpassing the Omaha Supernovas. I think Omaha has lost 3 straight matches, which is just very uncharacteristic. It seems like whenever Omaha has success, they wind up going 10 steps backwards. And then when they go 15 steps forwards, they go 20 steps backwards. So Omaha needs to win. They're at the CHI Health Center. They can beat the Atlanta Vibe. I definitely have confidence in them. Like, I can't imagine. I mean, Omaha is. The interesting thing is that Omaha is 2-5, and the loss to San Diego. Believe it or not, Omaha's loss to San Diego was actually their first road loss of the season. Going into that match, they were the only team that had not lost a road match. And you're telling me they lost to San Diego, which has like one of the worst attendances in the MLV? Ouch. God, Omaha they got to get their lick back this week. But it's funny that Omaha's 2-5 at home because they have probably the best fan base of the MLB, and they sell out a lot of their crowds. So I'm very surprised Omaha is 2-5 at home. What's even more surprising is that Orlando's 1-5 at home. Yikes! What is going on with the MLB? And Columbus is yet to win a home game. Columbus might be the Cleveland Browns of the Columbus Fury are the Cleveland Browns of the MLB, and the Grand Rapids Rise are the Raiders of the MLB. I'm sorry to Browns and Raiders fans, but it's the truth. Anyway, moving on from Thursday, Friday you've got Indy Ignite and the Columbus Fury. So you got the best team in the MLB versus the worst team in the MLB. If Indy loses this matchup, I'm going to be very surprised. They can't lose this matchup. They got to continue to have a vice grip on the MLB standings because looking at the standings, they're actually 2 full games ahead of Dallas. If they beat Columbus, then that's a feather in their cap right there. Speaking of the Dallas Pulse, they actually host the Orlando Valkyries on Friday. So Orlando is licking its wounds quite a bit. So if there's ever a chance for the Dallas Pulse to have a firm vice grip on second place at the very least, if not maybe move closer to Indy, it's this matchup right here because Orlando is on the struggle bus. They do not have Abercrombie or Champu. They need to get back to full strength, and they need to get Charity Looper and Hannah Max back to their strong, dominating selves. So Orlando needs this win in the worst way, but can they do so against Dallas? I mean, they couldn't even beat Columbus, so it's a wait-and-see process. And then Sunday, you've got a quadruple header. Woo! Quadruple header. You got the Omaha Supernovas at the Indy Ignite. So remember how I said Omaha has only lost 1 match on the road? This could be the match where Omaha proves itself that they are still up there. But they face a very tough and red-hot Indy Ignite team. And honestly, I think this one's going to be a tough matchup. I mean, Indy, I imagine, should have a big crowd as well. But if Indy plays the way that they have been playing, they should beat Omaha. But if Omaha plays the way that they have been playing against Indy or the way that they played against Indy the last time they squared off against them, they can beat the Ignite. I definitely have a lot of faith in the Omaha Supernovas. I think I have too much faith because every time I talk a lot of good things about Omaha, they wind up losing and making me look like a clown. Maybe I should start being mean to the Omaha Supernovas. No, I'm kidding. I would never do that because Nebraska fans would never let me live it down. But Omaha has a good shot at least going 1-1 this week. Oh, I expect them to win the Atlanta match at the very least. If they can win the Indy match, I think they have that would be a bigger bonus as well. Also on Sunday, you've got the Grand Rapids Rise at the Orlando Valkyries. Oh man, look, it's tough for me to trust the Orlando Valkyries because they're not at full strength. But if there's ever a match for them to win, this is the match. They got to win this match against the Grand Rapids Rise. Because the more they fall further and further down the standings, the more they risk possibly missing the whole playoffs as a whole. But or I trust Orlando to hopefully win this matchup. I'm hoping I don't put too much faith in the Valkyries like I do with the Supernovas. But this is the Rise we're talking about. The Rise, look, their first round pick is going to the Omaha Supernovas. That just goes to show how desperate the Grand Rapids Rise were. Yes, they got Morgan Hens in return, but they hated the Omaha Supernovas quite well. But if there's ever a match for Orlando to win, it's this one. Then also on Sunday, you've got the Dallas Pulse at the Atlanta Vibe. This one I think is definitely winnable for Dallas, but it's also definitely winnable for Atlanta. This one is kind of an evenly matched matchup right here. So you never know what you can get with the Atlanta Vibe and the Dallas Pulse. At the same time, it's like I really think that Atlanta needs this win just because. So we shall see when it comes to this. When it comes to this matchup, I think this one might be the second most exciting match of Sunday, March 1st, just because Omaha and Indy, I think, is more exciting. No offense to Atlanta and Dallas fans. And then closing off the quadruple header on Sunday, you've got the Columbus Fury at the San Diego Mojo. Man, if there's ever a week for San Diego to really improve its record, this is the week. Because if they go 2-0 this week, knock on wood for their sake, that puts them at 500. This would be quite something. San Diego hasn't been, I don't think San Diego has been 500 since their inaugural year, where they wound up finishing, well, I think they finished third in the PVF/MLV standings. But man, San Diego's got the Grand Rapids Rise and the Columbus Fury, two of the worst teams in the MLV. You got to do your part to win, San Diego. You have to win these matches. There's no excuse. You are facing the two worst teams in the league. You have to prove that you are a cut above them and then eventually move up the standings. If you do, then we may have to have a talk about the San Diego Mojo in a good way. But if they lose to Columbus and possibly Grand Rapids, we need to have a talk about San Diego being the most hot and cold team in the MLV. So there you have it right there. So that'll do it for the Week 8 preview of the MLV. Let's jump to some LOVB action. So League One Volleyball. Okay, so League One Volleyball had Week 8 happening, which after having the LOVB or League One Volleyball Classic, we had Week 7. What? Oh, yeah, that's right. Week 7. So, yeah, it was Week 7. So, Week 7 started off with Atlanta taking on Houston. So, Houston was one of the more red-hot teams. And I was really wondering, how is Atlanta going to win this matchup? Especially since it's at HEB Park or Cedar Park. Atlanta wound up winning this one, surprisingly. So, if you remember, Atlanta's not one of the better teams in the League One volleyball realm, but the fact that they were able to pull off the win against a red-hot Houston team, that's pretty good if you ask me. So, if I recall correctly, I think the League One volleyball playoffs are as follows. The top 4 teams advance to the playoffs, so it's not like last year where everyone made the playoffs and then the top 2 seeds got a bye, and then it was single elimination. So, for Atlanta, them beating Houston was quite impressive. This was kind of a grinded out match because all the sets they won were by 3 points or less. So Atlanta earned this win definitely. So great job to Atlanta winning on Thursday. On Friday, we had Austin outlasting Madison in 5. Fifth set was actually 15-13. So the league woes just continue for Madison. And they also found out that Matt Furbringer, their head coach, is going to be stepping down as their head coach following the 2026 season, because if you all remember, he's now the U.S. national beach volleyball coach in terms of the men's side, which I think is well deserving on his behalf. So that was on Friday. Saturday we had the battle of the top 2, LOVB Houston at LOVB Salt Lake. Now, this one should have been on national TV, which you're about to find out why. Houston wound up gentlemen sweeping Salt Lake, which handed Salt Lake its first loss in quite some time, and it really shook up the LOVB standings kind of a bit. I mean, Salt Lake still leads that conference by quite a hefty chunk. I think it's by a game and a half. Yeah, game and a half right there. So Houston getting back into the win column against Salt Lake is really cool if you ask me, because Houston suffered that tough loss against Atlanta, but the fact that they were able to beat Salt Lake at Salt Lake, that's incredible right there. So great job to Houston taking out Salt Lake on the road. And yeah, tough loss for Salt Lake, but the streak was bound to be broken eventually, so it's better they lose now than they lose when it truly matters. And then Sunday, we had the battle of the LOVB A teams. You had Austin versus Atlanta, where Atlanta, just like before, they wound up taking down, or just like they did on Thursday, they took down Austin in 4. So they dominated the Texas 2-step, which was very good if you ask me. So a great week for Atlanta. So don't sleep on LOVB Atlanta by any means. That with that win, they actually jumped to 3rd in the standing. So great job to Atlanta. And we had one more matchup when it came to week 7. So we had Madison versus Nebraska. This actually was nationally televised on ESPN2. In case you're wondering where Madison and Nebraska are in terms of the standings, they're at the bottom. Nebraska is the second worst team in the league, while Madison is the first worst team in the league. I get why they decided to have it, just because they wanted to see if there was going to be a big crowd in Nebraska, and then they wanted to televise it. Anne-Marie Anderson was on the call, which she did an excellent job. In the end, Madison, which hadn't won a match in like forever, I think they had lost 8. They had lost 8 straight before this match. They wound up beating Nebraska in 5. Oh man, Nebraska, what are you doing? Nebraska wound up losing this one. I had high hopes for Nebraska, but like I said last week, if there was ever a match for Madison to win, this was the match. They needed to win this match in the worst way, just because, God, imagine losing 9 straight and still being stuck at 2 wins after you started 2-0. Nightmare City right there. But LOVB Madison, they were able to snap their losing streak. And Matt Furbringer said it best. It kind of helps them in the standings. It keeps their playoff hopes alive. Can't believe we're still kind of talking playoffs right now. I mean, there's still, that was week 7. There is still 6 more weeks remaining. So looking at week 8 of the LOVB season, or League One volleyball season, or Love, whatever you want to call it, starts on Wednesday with the match of the week being Salt Lake at Austin. And I made a mistake. HEB Center is where Austin plays. Ford Bend County Epicenter is where Houston plays? I guess so. Well, I guess Houston plays in like different venues. They play in the Berry Center, which is pretty cool if you ask me. They also play at the Ford Bend County Epicenter. HEB Cedar Park is where Austin plays. So that's my mistake, everybody. But anyway, Salt Lake needs to get back on track. Well, Austin, man, they need a win the worst way. They've lost 3 of their last 4, which is not good if you ask me. So Salt Lake needs to get back on track. This is kind of the battle of who wants to get back on track first. But that's the Wednesday matchup. Thursday, we have Nebraska at Houston. Oh, God. Nebraska is still facing one of the more hotter teams in the League One volleyball realm. Nebraska needs to win this one. They need some sort of win. But the question is, where's that win going to come from? It's certainly not going to come. It might not come until... Who do they have next week? They've got Salt Lake next week. God. It might not come until week 10 when they face Madison or Austin. But, God, Nebraska's in a tough situation. They got Houston on the road. That's tough if you ask me. So, Houston, this one might be a short match, but you never know. Maybe, just maybe Nebraska pulls this one off. I've seen crazier things happen when it comes to this league. Maybe Nebraska pulls this one off because the talent is there when it comes to Nebraska. They just have to play and fully complete a match and not play down to their competition. Though that's kind of tough just because Nebraska is kind of the definition of down to their competition. And then Sunday, you've got Salt Lake at Atlanta. So there's only 3 matches when it comes to week 8 of the League One volleyball season. So the team that is on bye is Madison. So Madison, after beating Nebraska, they've earned a bye. But Salt Lake, Atlanta has been one of the more red-hot teams as of late. But they face a Salt Lake team that's hungry to get back on track. Salt Lake is going to have to win on the road, and they were eventually going to have to win on the road eventually. But we'll see what happens when it comes to Salt Lake. I think Salt Lake could win this matchup, but they're facing a really good Atlanta team that's been playing great as of late. By the way, this matchup is going to be on ESPN+. And that ESPN2 matchup between Madison and Nebraska, that's going to be the only ESPN2 matchup until probably the League One Volleyball Championship match. But anyway, Salt Lake, Atlanta concludes week 8 of the League One volleyball season. So it's a kind of a quiet week. Week 9, we'll have a little bit more match. We'll have more matches as there's 5 matches in the LOVB season. So, or LOVB week 9, or League One volleyball week 9, or Love week 9, whatever you want to call it. But We only had 3 matches in terms of love this week, so there you have it right there. That is going to do it for the Week 8 preview of the League One volleyball season. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate everyone's support. I promise you all I will be able to hopefully get these clips like posted on the iSports Radio account in a faster manner. Also, I'm hoping to, post my interviews from past weeks sooner rather than later. So you have that right there. But for everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself an amazing week. I promise you all I'll also have my weekly volleyball videos posted ASAP. So keep it locked there. But I'll see you all Friday at UC Irvine for UC Irvine UCLA. So take care, everybody. Peace. And enjoy all the volleyball action. Whether it's high school boys volleyball, junior college volleyball, NCAA beach volleyball, NCAA men's volleyball, just enjoy the volleyball action, please and thank you. Good night, everybody.